There were days when Bianca Ferretti would sit for hours in front of the window, watching life go by outside her villa as if it were a show she was no longer invited to. Children laughed in the square, bells rang in celebration, and families huddled around tables in bars. But she was there, alone, with a blanket on her knees and her heart full of memories. Once upon a time, that house was filled with voices, cooking smells, hurried steps on the parquet, and kisses on the forehead. Once there were Giulio, her husband, and their 2 children who ran to meet her screaming. Now everything had changed. Giulio had been gone for years, taken away too soon by a cruel fate. And the children, they had grown up, yes, but even distant, absent, they had become almost strangers. Before continuing, subscribe to our channel and activate the bell so you don't miss any of our stories. Bianca didn't ask much of life. She didn't look for trips, gifts, or parties anymore. She only wanted one thing: not to die forgotten. And when the doctor told her with a broken voice that her time was running out, she didn't cry. Not out of fear, but because she knew that the greatest pain wouldn't be dying, but dying alone. So she asked Rosa, her faithful assistant, to contact her children. Rosa had been with her for years, a young woman with a gentle character and a huge heart. She took care of the house, but above all, she had become a reassuring presence, almost like a daughter to Bianca. The first phone call was to Daniele, the eldest. When Rosa explained the situation to him, he cut him short. "I'm sorry, but I have a business trip right now. I can't come." When Rosa asked him to think about it more, he replied, "Maybe it's time to find a retirement home. At least she'll have someone to stay by her side." Matteo, the second, didn't even answer. He sent a cold message. "I'm too busy right now. I'll say goodbye to Mom as soon as I can." When Rosa ended the last call, she couldn't even look Bianca in the eyes. But it was no use. Bianca had already understood everything. They're adults. They have their own lives and they have to think about their future, she whispered, trying to hide her tears. Rosa accompanied her to her room, then sat down in the kitchen clutching an old family photograph. It was unfair. Those 2 children had forgotten the heart that had raised them. But Rosa knew someone who could perhaps make a difference: Mrs. Gabriella, her neighbor. She had been a widow for years and lived in a small house with her son Gabriele, a boy in his 30s who was paralyzed following a motorcycle accident. They lived with little but full of mutual affection. Every day, from their house you could hear laughter, songs, and the smell of freshly baked pastries. When Rosa went to Gabriella and told her the situation, the woman was shocked. "How can you abandon a mother like that?" she murmured regretfully. "You did well to call me, Rosa. Now I'll take care of it." Rosa hesitated for a moment, then burst into tears and confessed. Bianca has very little time. She didn't want to die alone. She just hoped to say goodbye to her children. Gabriella nodded. "I won't let her spend her last days alone." The next day, Bianca heard a knock. She opened the door slowly and found Gabriella with a warm apple pie in her hand, and Gabriele at her side with a gentle smile. "We hope you still have room for some sweetness. We made it for you," Gabriella said. Bianca hugged them both. From that moment on, the loneliness disappeared. Gabriella and her son became the family she had missed. They watched movies together, cooked, chatted in the garden, shared the little gestures that make life worth living. Gabriele, despite his limited condition, was able to drive and accompanied Bianca to medical visits, read her poems, and listened to her tell stories of a time that seemed so far away. He even organized a small birthday party for her, inviting the few friends who still lived in the city. Bianca's children, of course, were contacted again, but did not show up on that occasion either. But for Bianca, that was the most beautiful party in the last 20 years. She felt she belonged to something. She was no longer invisible. It was then that she made her last big decision. She called the notary and changed her will, not to punish, but to reward those who had given her sincere love in her darkest moment. When Bianca Ferretti passed away in her sleep, she did so peacefully, with Rosa beside her to hold her hand, and the photo of her new family on the nightstand. The next day, at dawn, Rosa called Daniele and Matteo. For the first time in years, they both rushed to the villa, but not out of grief. They just wanted to know how much they would inherit. They showed up at the notary's office a few days after the funeral, cold and impatient. Gabriella, her son, and Rosa were there, their faces marked by tears. The notary, in a firm tone, began. Mrs. Ferretti modified her will 2 weeks before her death. According to her last wishes, the villa and the main assets will be inherited by Mr. Gabriele Donati. A chill descended on the room. Daniele blurted out, "To that boy? A stranger in a wheelchair?" The notary continued, ignoring the interruption. The rest of the assets will be divided between Mrs. Gabriella Donati, Miss Rosa Savelli, and the Abbracci Ritrovati Foundation, created by Mrs. Ferretti to support lonely and abandoned elderly people. Matteo exploded. "It's absurd. They took advantage of her." Gabriella stood up with a look that took her breath away. "Your mother waited for you until her last breath. She just wanted a hug, a greeting, but you never came. We did. And she didn't die alone, thanks to those who knew how to truly love her." The two brothers announced a legal battle, but the papers were clear. Bianca's wishes had been expressed with clarity and love. The judge confirmed everything. With the inheritance, Rosa, Gabriella, and Gabriele realized a project they had dreamed of together with Bianca. A refugee home for lonely elderly people, a place where no one would ever feel forgotten again. They called it Bianca's Refugee, and every time the sun rose between the hills, it seemed that Bianca's generous heart still beat within those walls. Did you like this story? Leave a comment below. Thanks for watching the video till the end, and see you next story.